What's going on, guys? It's Mohammed, the host of Aware Alpha, and welcome to episode 106. Super grateful. Like I always say, it's truly a pleasure to have a platform where I'm able to share my voice, lessons, and experiences. And on top of that, be able to bring guests from all aspects of life, and they're also sharing their stories, lessons, and values. So for me, I'm just super grateful for that. And today we have another special guest. She's a self-made multimillionaire, and her mission is to spread more love, connection, and money. And following her on Instagram and just seeing all the stuff that she shares, I was very excited to have her on the podcast. So, with that being said, Alicia, welcome to the Aware Alpha podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm sure we'll have a great time.
Awesome. I love it. I love the optimism. So, one of the first questions that comes to my mind is, everybody believes that, you make a lot of money, you're happy, and that's what it seems like most people in the world believe that. And it's usually the people that haven't made a lot of money that believe that. So I'm curious from your thoughts, from someone that's made a lot of money so far in their lifetime, does making a lot of money bring happiness?
That is such an interesting question. And for me, of course, everybody has different definitions of happiness and how to achieve it. For me, I feel that happiness is a feeling. So it can be fleeting, just like anger, sadness, etc. Whereas joy is something that comes from within. So a
Mhm.
lot of times, or for me, that's how I define it. A lot of times I think that people confuse joy and happiness. So
Mhm.
I can eat, a piece of chocolate cake and it can make me happy for a few seconds, right? And I did have to have money to buy the things to make the cake or to buy the cake.
Yeah.
However, happiness is fleeting. So money can buy you happiness, yes,
Mhm.
but you can't expect that to be lasting. So the joy comes from within, just like peace does in love. And we all have unlimited amounts of love, joy, and peace inside of us. It's just, are we going to choose to activate and live in those? So
Mhm.
that's kind of the difference to me and how I relate to that.
I love that. I love the way you answer that because I think there's like a chart out there where it shows the top like high vibrational emotions, which is peace, joy, I'm pretty sure love, but happiness is not there. Happiness is not even in the whole thing from my understanding. So since we're talking about joy here, do you believe that making a lot of money can it bring joy, or to get joy you're saying it has to be some other things involved, inner work? And I'm curious to hear what you say there.
Yeah, I think that making a lot of money could bring joy if the way that you're making a lot of money is your passion and what you're here to do. So it's not really
Mm,
the making a lot of money that's bringing you the joy, it's operating in your passion and in your bliss. And that's bringing you joy, but also creating money along the way. So I
mm,
think money is an energetic. I view it that way. It's just energy. So you're either attracting it to you or you're repelling it from you.
I love that. I love that answer. And I strongly believe that like money is a tool. Like it can enhance your experiences and your opportunities in life. However, I always say this, and I have some amazing friends in my network that have made a lot of money. It's like I'm like, if you are dealing with things inside trauma, you got healing to do, there's emotional mother, father wounds, and all these things. You could have a $300 million yacht, but you're sitting on that yacht still having to deal with these voids that you have inside you.
Yeah.
So no money in the world can really help with that. So that's how I look at it. So for me, I've never been money motivated. It's more mission oriented and purpose and what brings me joy, like we were saying, right? So what's your background, by the way? Nationality.
Oh, I'm half Persian and half mix. My
Okay.
mom is like she's got some German in her, some Indian in her, a Native American Indian,
Okay.
and then my dad is from Iran.
Oh wow, this is so cool. Like this is the first on a podcast. So I was actually born in Iran, grew up in Afghanistan, and then of course
Wow.
lived in Pakistan and came to Canada when I was 12 years old. I'm 32 now,
Wow.
but
Wow.
this is the first time I have another half Persian
There you go.
on the podcast. That's
Yeah,
so
I
awesome.
love that side of my family. It's so different than just the traditional American, raised household, and the
Yes.
values, some of the values and the connections, the way that they build them have
Hmm.
really influenced who I am as a person. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's amazing. So is it, yeah, your father or your mother
It
that
is
was,
my father.
that's amazing. Have you ever been to Iran, like visited?
I haven't been to Iran just because of, it's a little bit tumultuous right now from the
Yeah,
States to there.
of course.
But I have been to Turkey. So we do our family reunions there in Turkey, it's not Iran, but it's close.
Yes, exactly. No, that's awesome. I love that. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This is so cool. It's interesting how, culture, environment are the same place, all of a sudden creates this, like, it's like I just feel like I know you even better or something,
A bond. Yep.
That's
It's an
amazing.
energy, just like I was saying, money is, so is background and history. We are all connected, and this just gives us one extra connection point.
Exactly. No, that's so true. My other question comes to my mind is what's the difference between authentic love and a trauma bond? And how does somebody is able to understand that? Because when you first get entangled with somebody, so many emotions, so many things are happening that it's like, how am I able to come back and reflect and analyze that this is not just a trauma bond and it's actually an authentic love and I shall pursue this more?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I will give you my opinion. I am not a relationship counselor or therapist, so we'll just put that out there. This
I
is
love
just
it.
from my own personal experiences, but I think that most likely, your original connection with someone could be a trauma bond, because those are
Mhm.
energetic, right?
Yeah.
Energetically, my ego hurts the same way your ego hurts, or it fills a need in me. And
Mhm.
so there is that initial attraction, but that doesn't mean that even if you guys were attracted through that negativity, that you can't create true love out of that. You just have to
Mhm.
be cognizant of the areas that you're needing to work on, and the other person also has to be cognizant of theirs. So you can't do their inner work for them. However, I don't think that even if you have those attractions to the trauma, that means you can't have a relationship. I know that there are things that even my husband does that trigger me because of things that have happened with my mother.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, or he will remind me, that he is not my mother. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, what you're doing though right now is triggering me, right? And
Mhm.
so I have to take responsibility for that. That's my trigger. And then as a loving and kind spouse, he can see if he can make exceptions with that behavior. Okay, can I reframe the way that I speak to her so that trigger isn't touched? And then can she also work on that trigger, right? So we
Mhm.
both have areas where we can contribute to each other as we're learning and growing.
I love that. That's a great answer. What I got away from that was that awareness, as long as you guys are both aware that whether this is a trauma bond, whether this is an authentic love, awareness, as long as I'm aware of what's happening and then we're both consciously making a decision, if this is a trauma bond, how are we going to move out of this? How are we going to work through this? How are we going to just make it happen, right? And by the way, you and your husband, great couple. I was actually looking at Charles' account last night, and I'm very like very very strategic on who I listen to in my
Mhm, it's
life
smart.
and who I take advice from. So and I went on his page and just like I think that I watched like 2 3 reels, and right as I was like, this is a guy. This is one
Yeah,
of my guys. I like what
yeah.
he's saying,
He
just
is
I feel like he's very
he's
straight
very
to the point.
smart. Mhm. Very smart and very direct. You're right. To the point.
Yeah, that's what I took away right away. I was like, wow, I love that. So another thing I wanted to ask was, so you're a successful entrepreneur and you have went from wherever you are to making, 7 figures and multiple times. What are some key things that you feel like was the reason why you were able to get there and get to this, earning multiple millions of dollars in your lifetime?
Yeah, I think that a big part of it, which you hit on, is that you have to be willing to do the inner work. So
Mhm.
your business reflects who you are inside. and it shows you where you need to grow and what areas you need to be working on. So I think the number one key from my point of view is being willing to do the work. That means the work on your inner self, that means the work on your business. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't even start it. It's going to be hard, it's not easy. Sometimes I see these like overnight stories. Oh, I had $800 in my bank account. 9 months later, I was I had sold $1 million in this, and I was in Forbes, and I'm like, right, you sold $1 million, and how much did you actually profit from that? And I can pay to be in Forbes. Like these things that people hear, sometimes I feel like it's misleading. So being an entrepreneur is not always easy and fun. Sometimes it's difficult and hard, and you have to decide, are you willing to put in that work and that effort? And can you do that and still harmonize the other aspects and areas of your life so that you're complete and whole?
I love that. That's a great answer. When you say inner work, what do you exactly mean? I'm curious, just dive deeper into that with me.
Yeah, I think that all of the experiences in our life are here to show us what we need to work on. So just like you were saying, trauma bonds, I think you would have those with anybody, whether it's a spouse or, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a parent, a sibling. I think that the universe, God, whoever you believe in, brings those to you to help you work on yourself. Because if you don't have mirrors and other people, what perspective do you have? You only have your own. And you're not going to trigger yourself. So it's just like, you have to have these people in your life. Your business will do it to you as well. These motivators in your life to help you grow, or you can't.
Oh, that's a great answer. And the other thing, so you said you got to do your inner work to be able to achieve, great success when it comes to money. What are some other key variables? Because what I was looking for, or almost like a part of my mind, was like hard work, 16-hour days of hard work, putting into that, learning certain skill sets. And yeah, just tell me more about that, please.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is hard work. And yes, there were many days that were 18, 19, 20, even plus 20-hour days. And I mean, years in a row. I'm not going to say that I think that that was the best way or the only way. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I did it the way that I could. However, now I'm much smarter. And so it's like, oh, well, I've learned. So yes, there is, like I said, hard work that has to be done. And I think you also hit the nail on the head. In order to achieve greatness in any area of our life, we should focus on the things that we are really great at. I call those my 8s, 9s, and 10s. So although sometimes when you're starting a business or you're an entrepreneur, you have to do things that you aren't great at because you haven't been able to fill that role yet. But I've heard it put this way before: I try to fire myself out of those roles as quickly as possible. So I'm not saying I won't do those roles so that I understand them and I can write, systems and procedures for them, and then bring in the right people that are better than me at those areas. So it's understanding that it takes a team. If you want to get somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go with others.
Yes, very true. I love that. And, I feel like though we live in a world where there's a lot of people talking about find your purpose and you will get there. Find your purpose and focus on that, and you will get to making a lot of money and all those things. I personally believe that you can't just expect to find your purpose and then you're writing this mission and you're going to make millions from it because you have found your purpose. I personally believe you have to try a whole bunch of things before you even discover your purpose. You might even have to make a lot of money to live a comfortable life and get to a space where you're not money motivated anymore. And then you're like, I really enjoy building schools in Africa. I'm going to start doing that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that to make a lot of money, you have to find your purpose? Or do you think that you can't if you're trying to make a lot of money, you can't focus on finding your purpose because you might not even know what that is yet because you're so you're in scarcity and you're not wealthy enough to be able to focus on try to figure out what you need to make money in or what your purpose is.
Yeah, I can't speak for others, but I can speak for myself. The way that I made, our first millions was not, I wouldn't say, oh, that was my purpose, I want to continue to. No, it was just a business. It was the quickest roadmap from where I was to where I wanted to be. And it was efficient and smart to do it that way. So I could see the path and I took advantage of that. And I think that that's just smart. It's like, oh, if you see the pathway. Now, was it unfulfilling? Yes, I will say that I wasn't fulfilled because the money didn't do it for me. Yes,
Yeah.
it's nice to have money, and we all need a certain amount to be able to live comfortably, and that amount is different for each person. But
Mhm.
once that's been achieved, then it can start to feel like, whoa, for me, it opened up the fact that I needed to do some inner work and find my purpose. And I think that the world puts a lot of pressure on your purpose,
Yeah.
but your purpose might not be a lifelong purpose. It could be growing and evolving and changing as you grow and evolve and change. And so
Mhm.
I think being flexible with yourself and giving yourself the grace to explore, right? And really enjoy what you're doing, because I think that all of our purpose is really to learn and to live as blissfully and as peacefully and as lovingly as we can. So I think that's actually the purpose for everyone. I don't think it differs that much. Now, how we go about achieving that is different for each
Oh,
person.
for sure. I love your answers. And I love that you say personal opinion,
Yeah.
because we're that's what we're doing. We're sharing our personal opinions here. Not telling anybody what to do, how to do it, or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And I love that you keep pointing that out. From your journey, let's just tell us a little about, let's say your 20s. I'm not even sure how old you are actually, but like just I'm
70,
assuming. Sorry,
70.
70. Okay. I
I'm
was
not,
gonna
I'm 37.
if anybody sees the video version, you guys will definitely know that Alicia is not 70. If she is, she's aged very well. It must
Oh,
be
thank
the
you.
Iranian
That Persian, that's what my dad says. He's like, it's Gorbani. And I'm like, everything good is Gorbani, I know.
That's awesome. So yeah, just tell us a little about when you weren't actually, a millionaire yet, and what were you doing? What was your life like? And just kind of give like a background on, the listeners that are listening, just to get an understanding of Alicia.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. I came from nothing. My father was an immigrant here, and he worked his butt off to provide for 6 kids. We made it, but I wouldn't say it was easy. And my parents got divorced when I was 11, and it became very difficult then. So I would work and give my mom my check to help us keep the bills paid. So
Mm,
it was not necessarily an easy life, but I think it created who I am,
mm,
and it taught me that all problems can be solved,
yeah,
and that perseverance is one of the greatest attributes that I have. I will keep going. You're not going to beat me, and I'm not afraid. So I think fear creates a lot of resistance in your life, and if
yeah.
you just trust that you've got this, you've never been presented with anything that you can't get through. You're still
Mhm.
alive, you can do it. So that doesn't mean that it's always pleasant or it feels nice. No, it doesn't always feel nice, but you can do it. And so I think that my teenage years were full of those kind of experiences. And
Mm,
I got married young at 18, and then I got divorced at 24. So I found out my previous husband was cheating on me when I was 9 months pregnant. It wasn't
mm,
easy and it wasn't fun. It was very painful. But those types of experiences create room for you to grow. And
mm,
so that's what I did. I grew, and I decided to pivot my life, and I became I was already an entrepreneur, but I definitely decided, like, this is what I'm going to do. I really had a point where it was like, okay, I'm not going to be married anymore. I'm going to have to support me and my 2 children who are under the age of 3.
mm,
Do I want to go back to a job where I had been very successful, or do I want to try doing this on my own? And I just knew that I'm better running, like, I would rather bet on myself
yeah,
and versus being an employee, which being an employee is not a bad thing unless you're me, who it's hard to be an employee.
exactly.
So I'd rather do my own thing, and I just trusted that I could do it.
I love that. And I love that you pointed out that you started from nothing, because I feel like a lot of times these days when someone is listening to a podcast video and it's like, oh, self-made millionaire, the first assumption, even naturally, is to rich parents, probably got it handed to them, right? So it's
Oh,
like,
I get it all the time.
right,
White privilege. And I'm like, I'm not white, but okay. It's
right,
just like, man, whatever. Yeah, it was a trust fund. It was this or that. And it's like, that's not the definition of self-made.
exactly.
Self-made means you did it yourself.
Exactly. So I'm
So
glad I'm
yeah.
glad you shared that, just to give an understanding of everyone that's listening to the podcast. So let's just say this is your 24 is when you got divorced and you have two children, right?
Mhm.
And around that time, because we live in a world where these morning routines and like I wake up, I meditate for half hour, I practice gratitude for 20 minutes, I visualize for another 10 minutes, and then so which I know myself, I do wake up and I meditate for 30 minutes and I do go to the gym. I'm not saying anything bad about those things. However, I'm in a much more comfortable stage of my life now than I was 5, 6 years ago, where I was in sales. I would be waking up, sleeping in a parking lot at the sales office because I wanted to be the first one to get the first lead of the day. So it's like I had no morning routine. My morning routine for 5 to 7 years was grinding and making it happen to learn the skills that I've learned and to acquire the things that I've acquired to be able to now be able to have a morning routine and do these things, right? So you're 24 years old, you go through a divorce, you realize that, you got to build a life for yourself and for your children. What were practical things that you start to focus on? And I'll give you some context on what I'm looking for almost is like, did you realize that your skill set was sales and you knew that sales was going to make you a lot of money? Did you realize that marketing was your skill set and you got to work on this and do best on it? Or were you more like a graphic girl and you realize that, damn, I have this business idea, I'm very creative, yet I do need to get good at sales or hire people that are salespeople. So like, what did it look like practically after 24, the next 2, 3 years for you to, let's say, start changing your life in a drastic way?
Yeah, I think because of the way I was raised, I already knew my strengths. So I
Mhm.
graduated high school at 16 and I already had moved out as well. So I have been in the workforce for a long time. And by 18, I was working for AT&T as a sales rep. So funny
Okay.
you say you were sleeping in your car. I would literally do that too, just so that I could beat traffic. I would
Mm.
drive there early and then I would wait 30 minutes. I would usually like cat nap before I would get in and start working. And so by 18 years old, I was making $100,000 a year, which this day and age isn't much, but that was 18 years ago. So it was a huge
Exactly.
amount of money. I built my first house at 18. I already knew that I was great at sales. I
Mm.
wouldn't call myself a salesperson, but I
Yeah.
care about people. So I can see, does this fit their needs? And
Yeah.
if it fits their needs, then I'm passionate about helping them achieve their goals and I can see how it will do that.
Yeah.
So I already knew that I was good at that. And when I got divorced, I already had my bakeries.
Okay.
So I was already an entrepreneur. I just had to decide, do I want to stick this out or do I want to go back to sales where I have a guarantee that I will be able to provide? And I chose the riskier option because I wanted to be with my kids. And
Yeah.
if I worked for AT&T, I would be stuck in a normal, 8 to 5 position and they would be in daycare. Whereas with my bakeries, I was able to keep them with me.
That's awesome. I love that. And so you started and so you had a bakery business and you decided to obviously double down on that, focus on that. And so did you start open a bunch of different stores, different franchises? Did you start a product line where you were distributing at different stores? Well,
Yeah.
what did that look like and what were you doing?
Yeah, I had 3 locations and a food truck. And I was working, I mean, we're pushing like 16 to 20 hours a day. It was hard.
Mm.
And then I met my current husband, Charles,
Yes.
and he asked me how many cupcakes I had to make to be a millionaire. And I instantly knew. I was just like, dude, this is a hobby, even though I have 23 employees and 3 stores, and I'm not going to achieve my financial goals continuing this way. And
Mm.
so that's when he and I partnered and opened a construction company together.
Yeah.
And that's really where I was able to put the things that I was really good at into play, even though I'm a great baker and I love that. What you get compensated for that is very different than being compensated for sales and connections, which I'm really great at.
Yes.
And so I applied that tool in our construction company, and that's what helped us grow 5,000% in 4 years.
I love that. While we're talking about marriage here, I'm a single guy who doesn't know much about marriage. How long have you and Charles been together now?
We've been married 7 years, but together 12.
12. That's amazing. Congrats. Great accomplishment,
Thank you.
first of all. The question I want to ask is from what I have read and just that the best marriages, the ones that last the longest, they're not easy. There's nothing easy about, you see the happy couples, they're, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they've been together. And when you look at it, like, wow, like they probably never argue. They probably never go to, right? So tell me from your experience, having a successful, great marriage now, is it easy or is
No.
it like the hardest thing you have ever done?
It's so it's one of the hardest things I think that you
Mm,
could ever do, because you're constantly having to evaluate yourself and then adjust to another person.
mm,
So you're living your life and you have desires that are different from the other person, and there's constant concessions. What am I willing to give up? What am I willing to, sacrifice for this relationship? And then what am I not willing to? Right. So I think that it's outrageous to think that it wouldn't be, hard. It's like, of
mm,
course it's hard, because you're two different people that want two different things. And also the world that we live in is not built for sustaining marriages.
yeah.
100 years ago, when you couldn't jump on a plane and just go wherever you wanted, it was really easy to stay home and be happy, because it's like, well,
Yeah.
what other option do you have? And then also it was really easy to be satisfied with your partner, because
Mm,
it's like, there's only 15 other men in the village.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to be with one of them.
Yeah.
So I think that the ability to have so many options, like the
Mm,
entire world is your option now, not just in partner selection, but
yeah.
also where do you want to live? Where do you want to work? What are the things that you want to achieve? So I think that if you want to maintain a relationship, you guys have to be really, really good at communication, and
Mm,
then really, really good at voicing the things that are wants and that are needs.
mm,
A want could be something that it's like, well, if I don't get it, it's kind of like, okay, I want Chinese food tonight. He doesn't want Chinese. What about Thai? Okay, it doesn't make that much of a difference to me.
yeah.
But a need, I need to do this thing for me. That's something that if I don't do it, it has consequences for
Mm,
myself as a person. And
yeah.
so I don't think that anyone could say that that's not hard. And then I
Mm,
also don't think that you can predict that just because you're happy now means you'll be happy together forever.
mm,
So I kind of look at relationships different than most people. I think that God or the universe brings people to your life for a season, and we don't get to know what that season is. We
yeah.
just get to enjoy and cultivate and respect that relationship and appreciate it while we have it, you
Mm,
know? So I think that if you can do those things, and you and your partner can find the way to be able to allow each person to fulfill their potential, then
mm.
you have the greatest chance of staying together and being happy.
I love that. That's a great answer. I wasn't gonna have another question about marriage, but I do now as we just were talking about this. Is it possible to know? I feel like it might be possible, let's say after knowing somebody for 10, being married for like 10 plus years, it's possible. And once again, personal opinion from, a single 32-year-old who still needs to learn a lot of things in life. Um, that maybe, yeah, if you have a 10-year marriage with somebody, it's at that point then you can be like safely say that, you know what, like this is my forever person. However, at maybe 1 or 2 years of being in a relationship, I always say, I'm like, forever is such a long time. Like, how could I be like, know that like you are my person forever? Like that's like forever is a long time.
Yeah,
However, like
I
I
don't
think
think I don't
and
think you can.
sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say, but however, I feel like maybe being with somebody for 10 years, at that point, you might be like, you know what, this is my person forever. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think it's like, do you agree with what I just said? Or do you like, no, you can know somebody's your forever the moment you lay their eyes on you or whatever? Like, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I don't think you could say that you would be with someone forever. I think that that's ridiculous because you don't control them. You
Yeah.
only control yourself. So it's
Mm,
like, can I tell you that I will love Charles forever?
yeah.
100%.
Mm,
He has been so giving and so kind and so gracious and such a huge catalyst in my life that
mm,
if I didn't love him forever, I don't think it would be right inside myself. Like there's so much gratitude for who he is as a person. Now, does that mean we'll be together forever? I can't control that. I
yeah.
can only control my portion. And something I read that I thought was really intriguing is that every 7 years, we have an option. We
Yeah.
can either create a new relationship with the person that we love and are already in a relationship with, or we can create a new relationship with a new person, because
Mm,
we grow and evolve and change. And so often you hear that saying about like a 7-year itch, that's when people cheat.
yeah.
Um, and that's such a, like, it's so distasteful to me because I've had it happen.
Yeah.
But what I think that is trying to tell you is that that's the average where you see a lot of evolution and growing in a person, or a lot of changing in a person. So when you start to see those signals, then you have to decide, do I want to grow and create a new relationship with the same person? And can we both put our efforts into making that happen? Or is that not going to work? And then you see people parting ways, right? So far, Charles and I have been able to grow and change together. But at some point, I don't control the future, and neither does he. So we just have to see, where it goes.
I love that. That's a great answer. I'm learning so much from this podcast. I'm like, wow, this is so good.
Yeah.
Just not only the audience, but like I'm taking so many away from this. So at what point did you decide that love and connection and money, but like I want to focus on the love and connection, that you want to share more on that you want to, because you have a podcast as well, right?
Yeah, I do. We're kind of rebranding it. So this year I've been traveling a lot and just had a lot of things going on. I'm trying to fit everything in, and it's been fun and interesting to do that. So yeah.
And then the podcast, do you just talk or do you bring guests onto the podcast?
I always have guests. So what I've done though is I haven't published a lot of the recordings from what I've done. I've used them for reels, but I haven't published them because I'm still rebranding.
Oh, okay, awesome. Just I was curious just because I see a lot of the reels and you're talking, so I was wondering if that, because like this podcast as well, the first 30 episodes, it was just me talking, sharing lessons. Then I started to bring
Oh, that's cool.
Then I started to bring guests onto the show.
Oh, interesting.
It just, there was only enough that I could share. I was like, you know what, let's start having guests on the show and taking their information and sharing it with the world, which I really enjoyed. Like I said, I'm also learning myself every time I bring someone on the show. So yeah, at what point, what made you or intrigued you that you want to share more on love and connection, and why?
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of comes from what you were talking about earlier. I had made money, but I still felt kind of empty. I was just like, oh, I've already like given the things that I want to give to my family. And so now I want to share with others. And what was really important to me and what I'm really good at is connecting. So it's like, oh, I can share that. And I think that that's a part of humanity that sometimes we miss, because in order to connect, you have to be authentic. And in order to be authentic, you can't be scared to share who you are. And I mean, if you either love me or hate me, you can go look at the comments on some of my videos. I mean, people say horrible things, but I don't care. I'm like, and that's your opinion. And an opinion is just like an asshole. Everyone has one. And if you're hurting and you want to take it out on somebody you don't even know, my shoulders are big enough. So you just have to let it like roll off. But I think that for some people that's hard. And so if that is my gift and I can do that, then I should do that.
And I think about the quote by Les Brown, where your opinion cannot be my reality, or doesn't have to be my reality, right?
Right.
And everybody's got opinions.
Yeah.
It's like, it is what it is. Something I have kind of continuously kind of going over, as well as I've just continued sharing more and more of myself on my own social media and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in the world that want to share their opinions with me, but for me, it's just, it is what it is. It's a price you pay to choose to be authentic in the world, right?
Yeah. And I just have to trust that, and I'm sure you do too, that whatever you're saying, there's a reason for it. There's a reason that the universe felt that this needed to be out there. If it wasn't the case, you wouldn't see the responses happening that are happening. So like with my social media, I didn't create that. I can't make people want to follow me, I don't care. And so it's like, obviously there's something that is attracting that response.
And while we were talking about like a connection there's, I think Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, and 4 of them, like you can meet them yourself, but the other 2, contribution and love, you have to actually, you get that from others. So it's like, so you end up making a lot of money, and then you realize that these needs for love and contribution, it's like you can't just meet those needs. Like, of course you can, but at the same time, like the way he talks about it is like actually going out there and sharing, helping the world, donating time, money, lessons, experiences to just impact the world in a better place, right? So these days, what do you like? What does your day look like? What are some things that are non-negotiables for you? Whether it's like going to the gym or eating, organic food, like what are some things that helps you optimize yourself being, the best to be able to run the businesses that you run and live the life that you live?
Yeah, I think that I love this question because it's very interesting to see my own evolution of the requirements, my non-negotiables. I used to get up every day and meditate for an hour. I mean, I would get up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning so that I could get this done, like meditate for an hour, then I would work out for an hour, then I would this and that. And just like, I mean, it was so scheduled. And I won't say that success didn't come from that, but burnout also did. And
Mhm.
so the way that I live my life much more now is I'm looking for bliss. I'm looking for what lights me up. I'm looking for what makes me happy, and I'm flexible to being in flow.
Mhm.
So if, today I'm not feeling the gym, then I'm not going to force myself. I don't need to. I already know how to take care of myself physically. I'm not going to allow myself to just go down the drain because I don't feel like going to the gym today. So
Mhm.
it's just feeling and understanding and taking the time to, what do I need? What do I need? And then giving that to myself. What do I physically need today? What do I emotionally need today? What do I spiritually need today? And especially because women are so different from men, we have a very different cycle than you guys.
Mhm.
For you, it's much more congruent and the same. But for women, every day is a different day. And so, I mean, we have 28 days and a full blown cycle to go through in that period. So if we force ourselves to do the same thing every day, our needs just are not that way. And so when I was able to allow myself the space to really dig deep into who I am and what I need and then honor that, I became
Mhm.
much happier.
I love that. Actually, while you were talking about the cycles there was a video of you I watched online about as a man, what's the best thing you can do for your woman is to
Mhm.
understand her cycle.
Yeah.
And it's actually been interesting because seeing that it has helped me just really understand the women in my life, which the most important woman in my life are my two sisters, my mother, and
Yeah.
just a couple of great companions. But like ever since watching that, it's just giving me like this awareness of
Yeah.
making sure to be there for them and understanding just what's actually going on with them, and it's not the same as what's happening with a
With
man,
you. Yeah.
so
It's
yeah.
it's beautiful that you were able to take that and pull the good for it, for yourself out of it. So many men were so offended by that, and I couldn't believe it. I'm just like, do you not live in reality? Like, first of all, we are very aware of men's needs and hormones and how they affect you guys.
Yeah.
There's like the whole world is built around it. And like
Yeah.
work is built around it. 8 to 5 is built around it. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. You guys were the ones that started it. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that you built it in a way that is compatible with the way that your body works.
Mhm.
But it is not compatible for us, and it doesn't use us to our best advantage, because
Mhm.
the first 2 weeks of my cycle, I'm going to have a ton of energy. I'm going to be super connective. These are all, of course, attributes that I have as a person, but my hormones are accelerating and accentuating them. And
Yeah.
then the week before my period, my hormones are literally directing me to go inward. So they're directing me to be more critical, to evaluate harder, to create space to really look at what do I have going on in my business and my life and all of these things, and where are changes needed. And
Mhm.
also, it's literally the hormones inside of me are telling me to slow
Yeah.
down, take care of yourself, rebuild as necessary. But our world isn't built to accommodate that. And we can't just flip a switch and make it. But if the men in our lives understand that, then it makes it much easier for us to feel supported and understood by you, which
Mhm.
in turn makes it much easier for us to feel loved and appreciated and be kinder.
Exactly.
So when we ignore what our cycles are doing, or we don't understand, then it feels like a roller coaster, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, men, for you guys, it must look that way too. It is a roller coaster. But if we
Yeah.
accept that that is the ride, and we can make this an enjoyable one, then we can do the little things that make it enjoyable. So instead of it being a nightmare, it can be something that we appreciate and we
Mhm.
understand about each other.
Yes. No, I love that. I'm glad that you went into that. But yeah, it's done. It's done. Just awareness. Like I'm very big on, the podcast name Aware Alpha. It's just like, yeah, like
Yeah.
awareness, just having an understanding of that as giving me a way to just work with the women in my life
Yeah.
differently, like just being there for them. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, like once you're energetically aware, you can almost tell. Like even I don't
Yeah,
even need to be around I don't live close to, I live in different side of the country than my mom and my sisters. Like I'm literally able to just
feel
know
it.
when they're going through it.
Yeah,
A couple of weeks of talkative every day calling me, and then all of a sudden I don't get the phone call. And in those days, I initiate, make sure I'm here for you.
so
Do you need
sweet.
anything? Is there any, how's your day going today? Because it's like it's just energetics, right? So
Yes.
I'm very energetically motivated, and I work and operate energetically in all areas of my life. So it's like I'm heart oriented. I make a lot of
Yeah.
decisions through the heart, and it's taking me a long time to get to this point of being able to separate fear and all those other things to where it's like, no, it's not just my heart and it's my intuition right now. Your inner voice is guiding me towards this stuff like that. But like, yeah, once you get to that point, you can definitely be able to have an understanding of the women in your life. Then you're seeing that, okay, they're going through some experience right now. It's like,
Yeah,
what can I do to make sure
to
this
support
experience
them.
is, yeah, just support them,
Yeah.
right?
It's very, I mean, I admire you so much. I'm like, that's
Thank
such a
you.
beautiful thing for you to say, and so cool that you can see it, and you can see that by just understanding, not asking you to change, not asking you to do anything, but just by taking the time to understand, your connection with half of the world's population just became so much deeper. If you
Yeah.
can do that, why wouldn't you? It's like,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you want to understand? We want to understand how dogs think. We want to understand how the plants operate and what makes them, plant them in full sun or partial sun. Or if we're willing to do all of that for plants and animals, like why wouldn't we do that for the species that we share the world with?
Exactly,
It's
right?
shocking to me when people get so offended and aggressive about it. It's like, would I want to understand men? I
Yeah,
mean, don't we want, that's how we operate well together.
exactly.
So I think that's awesome that you did that. And I think that the fact that you're also able to not just understand, but support them more, because that is really what I think, of course, this is my opinion, what women need that week before their period and while they're on their period, they need more support.
Yeah.
So in the first 2 weeks, I mean, we are gung ho. Like we can
Mhm.
even sometimes outperform men easily because
Mhm.
our hormones are just crazy. It's giving us so much energy. But then on the flip side, then we have the other side of that, just like yin yang, everything balances. And so on the
Exactly.
other side, we need a little bit more support. And if
Mhm.
you can offer that, you'll have amazing relationships.
Mhm. I'm glad that you elaborate on that. And yeah, for me, I think relationships are the biggest thing. So there's a saying actually that goes, not a saying, I've read articles on this about, money is a currency, but there's also three other currencies: your abilities, your time, and your energy, right? Um, for yourself, out of those four currencies, what would you say is the most valuable to you at this point in your life?
Hmm. I think energy, because
Energy.
you can create all the others with that. If you
Mhm.
understand energy, then
Yeah.
you can create connection, and connection always creates money. That I told you earlier, I think money is energy.
Yes, exactly. That's just another energy, right? Another
Mhm.
question that I've been asking a lot of guests and just individuals in my network. I'm curious to hear your personal thoughts on it. What do you think is the keys to longevity?
Hmm. The key to longevity. I think
And
that's,
not just, sorry to cut you off, and
go ahead,
not
no,
just
go
like
ahead.
getting to 80, 90 years old, but like your legs are not working, your brain is not functioning. Like, what's the key to being, 80, 90, whatever the longevity, but like you're healthy still, your mind is healthy, physically healthy, emotionally healthy, and you're just like, you see those 80, 90-year-old men, like I see an 84-year-old man at the gym every morning, and this guy's still running. And like, he's just like, so he does this to me. Like, he's just so, like, it's such a good vibe. So I'm curious, and I'm curious to hear your personal opinion on what do you think is the key to longevity, or what are the keys to longevity in your personal
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not 90 yet, so I can't tell
opinion?
you for sure.
You're
But I
70,
think,
right?
yeah, it's just 70. I'll be there soon. I think that it's really it's energetic. So
Mm,
being able to be cognizant of your energy and what your needs are,
mm,
and are you living a blissful life? Am I making decisions based on bliss? Based on a positive energy, love, connection, all of those things, and being very cognizant of that. I think when we live without intention, that's when like you start to see things that are negative stack up. because
Mm,
you're not intentional about what you're choosing, right? We're making choices all day, every day.
mm,
And these choices all have consequences or outcomes. But if you're following the positive energy and following the positive or whatever energy it is that is attractive to you, I like the word blissful,
mm.
then you're going to be happy and you're going to be joyful, and love, joy, peace, all of those things are going to be pouring out of you. They're already in you. It's just, do you choose to plug into them and use them and let them out, right? So being connected to those things and letting them out, I think, is probably what creates longevity, but I don't know for sure.
I love it. No, that was a great answer. Two more questions, or maybe just one more. If somebody wants to make $1 million in 2023, in your personal opinion, what do you feel like is the fastest way to get there?
Hmm. That's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think there's any such thing as fast money. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, so 2023, you have 9 more months. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a product that you can create and the masses want it, then you could sell it easily. There you go. I think there's many different ways to achieve that.
Yes.
However, I think if you haven't ever done it, to
Mm,
think that you would be able to in 9 months,
yeah.
that's a far stretch. The
Mm,
most important thing you'll need is connections. So if
mm,
that is your goal, then you better find people who have done what you've done in 9 months
mm,
and start connecting with them and pay them if you need to be your coach, whatever it is. That's, you're going to have to definitely partner up with people, because you don't know what you don't know.
mm,
And that's what usually prevents you from achieving your goals. The
yes.
things that you don't know biting you in the butt.
Mm. I love how right away, as soon as I asked that question, you were able to write it, like you were aware, like you're like, there's 9 months left. And one thing I've noticed from, just financially successful people in my life is that they're very well aware of time. It's like, it's a lot of people are like wishful thinking of money and this stuff like that, but where the people that are actually out there making it happen, they're very well aware of their time and what they need to be doing in that time, right? 9 months, 184 hours in a week, like what are you doing in those 184 hours? Like they're just aware of that, right? And last question here, nobody can be happy all the time, right? And I'm sure you're not always happy or joyful, stuff like that. In
Yeah.
those moments when you're emotionally overwhelmed and you're feeling a bunch of different emotions, whether it's greed, sadness, unhappiness, unworthiness, whatever, all those other emotions that you may be feeling, how do you navigate through them and how do you deal with them when those emotions come up for you?
Yeah, that is such an interesting one because everybody is so different.
Mm,
And for me, I'm much like you, I'm a feeler.
yeah.
And so it's not usually like one, or if I'm in not a great place, it's not usually one feeling. It's like 150 feelings. And so which can be paralyzing because you're just like, I don't even know what to do with all of these things. Like
Yeah.
it's so overwhelming. So on my best, when I'm behaving in my best manner, what I realize is I just need to go be out in the sun or
Mm,
get grounded. Like I need to go take a walk. I need to go sit outside and just feel the sunshine, listen to the birds. Those are the things that really ground me.
mm.
So it's funny because they don't cost anything. Like
Yeah.
walk outside.
Yeah.
Because all the like self-care that, go get a massage, it's like, no, that's just another item on your to-do list.
Mm,
Like stop what you're doing and take 5 minutes to go outside, listen to
yeah.
the birds, see the
Mm,
beauty of just nature, something that you have no control over,
mhm.
something that is 100% created by God, the universe, the Big Bang, who knows. Be grateful for those things, pay attention to those things, because to me, that's really so much of the beauty in the world is
Mm,
something we have no control over. So enjoy
yes.
those things, even if it's just 5 minutes, it will get you in a different headspace. And then you can come back to, okay, let me process this. It's just a problem, right? It's
Mhm.
just another opportunity to problem solve. And it can be fun if you're in the
Yes.
right space.
Oh, shoot, that was a great answer. The sun definitely always helps me. I recently moved to a place where I have more access to the sun.
So
Um,
nice.
but it's the most beautiful thing. And I've noticed from my experience, most emotions last about 90 seconds. So whatever it is that you're feeling, if you're just able to just sit it, feel it out, like it just goes through like 90 seconds, most emotions last, and like you're on to the next thing and the next feeling, right? But with that being said, Alicia, I absolutely loved this podcast. I appreciate so much all the questions, everything that you answered. They were just beautiful. I could probably charge for this podcast. It was so good. Please let everybody know where they can find you. They can connect with you. I'm going to make sure I add all those details in the section so they can actually connect with you and message you whatever it is that they would love to get from you.
Oh, thank you, Mo. I had a lovely time with you too. It was a great conversation, great energy. If they do want to follow me, they can, of course, on Instagram is the easy Instagram or TikTok. It's just Alicia Covey. So super easy, ELISHACOVEY.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you so much. It was absolutely amazing for me, and I appreciate it so much, Alicia.
Oh, me too.
And as I finish off the podcast here, guys, my intentions and a couple of intentions I like to set is that I truly hope that you listen to this podcast and take some things away from it. And we're learning and from somebody that's done some very well in business. So I hope that you don't just listen to this for entertainment purposes, but truly actually take some stuff away and start implementing in your day-to-day life. Actually, my intentions are for you to truly study this episode and see what you can take away from someone that has already achieved some success in their life. And with that being said, until next time, stay an aware alpha.